You're tuned in to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. And today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Barry Prost. Barry, full disclosure, is one of our earliest customers. So this is a very special episode for us. And so
you have to be nice to me today, Sean.
Brilliant. And I will be. I'll try. I'll try to keep it honest. But Barry, can you start by just sharing your story with us? Where were you born, raised? What did you want to be when you grew up? Stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was born in Dublin, and my first job, I was studied in Dublin, went to Trinity College here, was dead keen to get out working, and always had an interest in kind of entrepreneurship and sales. I had all the usual jobs kind of growing up.
What was the first job, Barry?
Yeah.
What was your first paid job as a
young adult? First paid job was not to sound too much like a cliche, but I was living in Ireland, so my first job was working in a pub.
Nice.
When I was 15, I think I lied about my age, because the minimum age, to start working is 16. But I got in a year early. So
do you remember how much they paid you? Like, do you remember?
Well, it was all about the tips, Sean. So even then, I was working on commission. So yeah, it was minimum wage. It was maybe it was three quid an hour or something like that. I don't know.
But did it feel like a lot as a 15-year-old making money for the first time?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just that was, I don't know. I was always kind of I was always not to sound too crude, but always interested in money even as a kid. So yeah.
Of course.
I think maybe people working in recruitment can probably relate to that.
Yeah, it's a sales job.
It's a sales job for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Barry, now, like, obviously working at the pub was your first job, but like growing up, what was your dream job, right? Because most kids don't even know what a recruiter is, right? Like, so that's not the dream job growing up. So what was your dream job as like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old?
Yeah, well, look, like probably most people working in recruitment, my dream job wasn't working in recruitment. I didn't know a huge amount about the industry growing up, but I always had an interest in business, and I always had an interest in kind of entrepreneurship, and I was probably drawn to that. So it was never about the sort of industry as such. It was more about
the money.
Doing something for myself, and that kind of and the money, and that kind of thing was interesting.
And so you go to Trinity and you graduate, and so what's your first job right after college, like the first adult job?
My first job, I remember doing a lot of interviews at the time, and had some good offers, but the one that I was really drawn to was it was to open up an office for an English recruitment company called Beresford Blake Thomas, or BBT at the time, who were subsequently bought by Randstad. That was very compelling to me, to be a fresh graduate and to kind of have that opportunity to.
How does that work? Why would they go to a fresh college college campus and get a fresh college graduate to be a business head?
Because they couldn't find anyone else. Sean, I think they were desperate. To be honest, looking back on it, of course they were. I remember, replying to a job ad in the Irish Times and going to meet the directors, and then being flown over to London. And I think they flew me business class at the time, which, I was pretty much sold at that stage. I said I met the CEO in London, and they were very much sort of selling me the job as well at that stage. So,
that's crazy.
I had job offers at the time, I think, from Oracle and, big tech companies like that. But that was the one that I really wanted to go for.
That's a very exciting first job experience, right? Most people don't have that to say about their first job, right? Where the management team is trying to recruit
I thought it was great. I thought it was, and it was literally just starting the business. I had a week's training in London with the team over there, and then literally sitting in an office of my own, in Dublin with a phone book, and that was it. Yeah.
Oh wow! So for how long was it just you in Dublin in that BBT office?
Oh no, not long. I mean, they were keen to grow the business, so probably like looking back on it, maybe 6 months.
Okay. That's still a long time to be like alone in a room just making cold calls, right? Like that's hard.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they had two sides of the business at that stage. They had a sort of a technical business and a health and social care business. So it was myself and a counterpart. She was on the sort of health and social care side. So there was actually physically two of us in the office.
Okay.
But yeah, we were in serviced offices. I think it was Regis at the time, and then we kind of not long after that moved into our own offices on Fitzwilliam Square.
Got it. And was this, like, to start with, was this mostly like perm recruitment? Were you selling retained searches?
Yeah.
What were you selling?
No, 100%. It was 100% contingency.
Okay. But perm recruitment, right? You were placing into full-time positions.
Correct. Yeah.
Just to start with. And how long were you in BBT then? So that was your first job?
Yeah. So 9 years, 10 years.
That's long, right? Like that's
a long time.
Yeah. And what made you stay that long?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I mean, I was really well looked after, and I was promoted, kind of 7 times. I mean, so there was lots of progression there, and I mean, I was probably promoted, into positions I shouldn't have been in. Looking back on it, because I mean, back then,
you were too young.
Too young, I think so. Yeah, and I was managing kind of at 1.5 offices across kind of England and Ireland and Scotland.
What do you mean by 1.5 offices?
Sorry, no. At one point, I was
at
managing.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. My bad. I was like, what does that mean? But Barry, now looking back, right? Someone listening to this is like, this guy's had the best career ever, right? Like, you're fresh out of college. An executive team at a global company comes in, tries to make you essentially a country head in a sense, right? On day one, and you get promoted a few times, and you've had an incredible first 10 years. So what do you think? Did you think that it was just the opportunity was good? What did you do that was different that made you successful the first 10 years? Just honest stuff, right? Other than raw, like intelligence and stuff like that. Because recruitment is more than that, right? Like, what was it that made it happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was always good at the sales side of things, so always good at generating revenue, and so I was always kind of among the top billers in the company, and really that's and I think in recruitment businesses, and maybe in a lot of businesses, you tend to get rewarded for that through promotion into management positions that potentially you're not necessarily best suited for. So I think, but yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I always enjoyed, and I always found fairly straightforward, was making placements. Yeah.
So would you recommend that people listening to this who are thinking about a professional career in business or recruitment, do you think they need to take classes in learning how to sell better if they aren't naturally persuasive, or what's the workaround? Or do you think it's just something that's natural, and if you don't have it, you don't have it?
It's probably a bit of both. I mean, look, again, sorry, I know you're not looking for any cliches, but like, it is hard work, and the harder you work, the better you'll do. And I mean, I was really putting in long hours back then. I was young and single, and so there was no, it was easy. It was easy to kind of put in the hours, and when you can see the rewards coming in on a monthly basis, then it's almost like this. It's just you
it just keeps happening.
You get rewarded, and, exactly, and
the
that
cycle continues.
Exactly, and then all of a sudden I look back, and you're kind of 7-8 years have gone by so quickly, So
so now Barry, like, looking back, you're probably very in your early 30s, right? You're maybe 31, 32. You've had 9 years. You've killed it. You've done very well, right? Relative to peers. Now, why do you quit and start your own? Did you start your own business right after BBT, or did you get another job?
No, right after that. I mean, kind of a couple of years before that, I recognized that, like, I needed I wanted to kind of add to my, I suppose, my own experience, if you like, make my experience more rounded. So I did an MBA at that point, an executive MBA with Smurfit, who were the best school in Ireland. Cool. And, my company were good enough to support me with that and pay for that. That was great.
So was this while...
And that was with a view to kind of moving on to do something else at that stage,
But were you working while doing the MBA, or did
it was an executive. It was an executive MBA. So it's, in theory, they say it's kind of 40 hours a week, but you're already doing 40. You're already doing 50 hours a week. So it's kind of a bit of a joke how they expect. It's very hard to put in 90-hour, 100-hour weeks.
But was it a 2-year program? Was it a 1-year?
2-year program. Yeah. Yeah. And it was pretty cool. Like there was, we studied abroad as part of it in Shanghai and places like that. And so it was a really good experience. I'd highly recommend that.
And so you were looking to move out, as you said, but how did you end up in the Middle East, right? Because I know your first business was completely different from what you'd been doing the first 10 years. So how did that happen?
Well, if you remember back to kind of 2007, 2008, the market was shifting, and my role changed to kind of managing a team across the UK and Ireland selling into the Middle East. Because that's where the growth was. There was huge growth. I don't know if you remember back in that time. That was when kind of Dubai was exploding. And
I was in school, Barry. I was in school.
Okay, now I feel super old. Okay. So Dubai was exploding at that time. Okay. I mean, it was literally, I remember one client, I sent him, we sent him kind of 5 CVs. He was a building contractor, and he sent back 5 job offers. So with no interview or anything. Yeah,
And what were the rates like in the Middle East? Were these the same? Yeah,
they were the same. They were pretty much the same. 15 on average, 15%, something like that.
Solid. So So this was probably where you realized, hey, there's for the same amount of work, you're probably making twice the money here, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. I mean, they literally couldn't get. So that's why we as a UK and Irish business, we very much had a team focused here on selling purely into the Middle East. So, and then 2008, 2009 happened, and Randstad, who owned the business at that stage, decided to close the offices in Ireland and close the offices in some of the offices in the UK.
Yep.
And I was offered a position to go out to the Middle East full time. But at that stage, I'd already decided, I'd finished my MBA and I kind of was ready to do something on my own. And I linked up with the previous colleague, Jamie Groom, who was set up on his own as well. And we kind of joined forces, if you like. And we wanted to... Yeah.
And why did you join? Why did you pick Jamie, right? So, or why did Jamie pick you?
Jamie. I worked with Jamie in the early days back in BBT. He was, somebody that who I'd worked with for a number of years, and he was kind of the best. He was the best recruiter I'd ever worked with. So it seemed like a no-brainer to kind of,
so was it more about the skill thing, where you were a great sales guy and he was a great recruiter, or did you just like each other personally as well? Or when
I say best recruiter, I mean best sales guy, really.
Okay.
Yeah. He was kind of the best person that I'd ever worked with. So that when you're setting up a business, it's really important you surround yourself with really great people. Yeah.
Yep.
So we set up the business 50-50, and we went out to the Middle East, and that's where we set up Propel. And
how did that work out? Is it easy for a foreigner to just go into Bahrain and just own a business? Is that even legal, or do they need you to have?
Yeah, we needed to kind of link up with a partner and sponsor on that. But certainly, I mean, Bahrain in the context of, because like everyone else, we kind of went to Dubai first, and Dubai is just super expensive for everything. And even more so when it comes to setting up a business. I mean, the prices are just eye-watering, the amount of capital you need. And Bahrain was the complete opposite. I mean, it was, really cost effective. We could bootstrap the business.
Did you remember? Do you remember how much money you put in, like before you started making any in Bahrain?
Oh, I mean, we funded the business through placements, so we didn't.
Oh, wow.
We really didn't put any money in.
Got it. So no savings, right? Like you didn't like create a bank account and like take all your savings and shove it into that.
No. There was none of that. I mean, that's probably the beauty of recruitment, isn't it? There's very low cost of entry, and we were able to generate fees very quickly because we were doing what we knew to do.
And recruitment as an industry has bad accounts receivables, right? On an average, 2 or 3 months with many businesses. Was that different in Ireland versus the Middle East? Like, did you see them paying faster or slower, or was it more or less sort of the same environment?
Yeah, that is an interesting point. And yeah, I mean, that is a lesson for the Middle East in terms of some clients are brilliant and probably 90% of our clients are fantastic, but I would say it is definitely a risk in terms of credit and getting invoices paid. And it would be a much greater risk in the Middle East than it would be in somewhere like the UK or Ireland,
where the law is probably a little more mature. Right. That's
exactly.
The right
Yeah. And there's a culture. There's perhaps a culture of, maybe not having to pay, everything exactly on time. So definitely, something that we would that I'd recommend people consider when they're moving out there.
But Barry, do the better taxes make up for it? Because I know like Ireland is a European country. You have high tax rates, relatively not high corporate tax rates, but probably high personal tax rates. Versus in Bahrain, I imagine the situation is very different.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously in Bahrain, you've got it's a zero tax environment, so that obviously makes it very attractive. Whereas obviously Ireland, that's not the case. So that's something that's
and Barry, now as an entrepreneur, like for how long was it just you and Jamie and at Propel, or did you rapidly start staffing up the moment you started making placements?
So in terms of Propel, I mean, no, we wanted to grow that business quite aggressively. So we really we started taking on people immediately. I'd probably describe myself as more of a kind of a reluctant entrepreneur. I'd be kind of kept awake at night by things like making payroll and that kind of thing. Where Jamie would be the complete opposite. He'd be much more of a kind of a natural entrepreneur and would have more belief that the revenue will come as we build it. That kind of that leap of faith that like good entrepreneurs always.
But you need that balance, right? You need some pessimism. You can't always look at the world like a rosy place.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Barry, how long did it take you guys to take Propel from 0 to 1 million in revenue, from the first dollar to the first million or euros?
I mean, it took us. I'd say it took us. It took us about 3 years. To achieve that, but I would say, it probably took us about 6 years to reach a kind of really sustainable business model. And now,
and what do you mean by sustainable, right? Like, can you explain?
Yeah, well, the way I feel about it is, it's kind of when you hit that kind of critical mass point where you're no longer the cog in the wheel that has to generate the sales every month. That's so important, I think, for any recruitment owner to kind of move beyond that.
And for you, right, since you've done this 2 times because you've built 2 successful businesses, at what scale does a recruitment business transform from a founder-dependent business where there's 1 or 2 star founders that are killer sales guys that are making it roll to something that doesn't need you? Like, you can go on vacation for 2 months and the business doesn't collapse, right? Like, at what stage does that happen?
You need that? Well, we're kind of on that journey at the moment, but I mean, for us and some recruitment companies do this really, really well. I mean, it's all about monthly recurring revenue, right? Yeah. And so what that means in recruitment is it's either it's contractors or outsourced workers, or where we're growing the business, around kind of embedded recruitment.
Yeah, and would you like to explain that a little bit, the Yala model or the Propel model of recruitment, just so people know what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, certainly Propel is, the more traditional agency. I mean, every agency has to suit its market, right? So Propel is, is very much it's based in the Middle East. It is a Middle East recruitment business, and we have ancillary services. We actually do some HR consulting work. We do some work around compensation and benefits. So we have probably about 5 or 6 revenue streams with Propel. So when we came back to Ireland, we set up Yala. We wanted to do something kind of completely different. So we very much focused on this kind of recurring business model that we wanted to generate and moving away from success only fees. So with Yala, we are working with a, kind of an embedded recruitment model where we're calling it Rent a Recruiter is the kind of the brand name, if you like, for the service. And we, where we effectively act as an employer's, talent acquisition team while they're scaling up, and then we exit the business. So it's more like recruitment as a service, if you like.
Got it. And how does that work for the client, right? So obviously I get the advantages, right? Like the advantage is they have someone dedicated who's not just going to send you random CVs. They truly wanted to work for you. But from your perspective as a business model, you're hiring someone full time. Yeah. You're taking that liability, you're deploying them with a client. Do you deploy them with multiple clients at the same time, or is it like a dedicated resource or person?
Well, the idea is that it's a dedicated resource, for that client during, for that, for the period of time that they're scaling up. And now, obviously, they're embedded remotely. We don't actually.
Got it.
We're not placing consultants on site.
Got it.
So it's very much remote. But they will use their ATS systems. They will use their social media. So very much embedded in that sense.
So would you like think of this as similar to just contracting, where you like use a cost plus model in terms of how you price it, or is it different? Do you also bake in the cost or price of your?
Yeah, well, you have to obviously take. Obviously, you have to take in the cost of the. Of the recruiter, of course. There's slightly more to it than that, because we do kind of it's not just the individual, it's the individual with the support of a recruitment business behind it.
And the training, right? Because you're not just deploying a random IT consultant at a random company. You're
absolutely
training and skilling these people.
So it's probably kind of somewhere between kind of that contractor model and an RPO. Recruitment process outsourcing. So it's probably somewhere in the middle between those two services.
Got it. And to make it easy for someone to understand, like what would someone do in an RPO that you wouldn't do, just to make it more obvious, other than deploying someone on site?
Well, with an RPO, you might have multiple recruiters working on that account, where we're selling one person, one headcount, as it was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. So it's a scale thing more than. More than a type thing. Brilliant. And how long did it take you to get Yala to 1 million?
So that took. We started in 2000 and we started in 2018, halfway between. In about, I think we registered the business in May of that year. We grew the business to 500,000 in 2019. And then over 1 million in 2020.
So 2 years. So the first time you took 3 years to do it in the Middle East. The second time around, you did it in 2. Is there a plan to do it a third time as well and be a parallel?
We're getting marginally better.
It's time.
Is it a third time? There's no plan. I mean, very much our focus is on consolidating. Propel as a leader in its market in Bahrain, and in terms of the growth prospects are very much around kind of Yala, and we're on a very kind of fast growth trajectory with the Yala, so we're looking to kind of continue that.
And Barry, how do you align your talent, right, your team to your company? Because I've known you for over 3 years, and relative to the industry at large, you have far lower churn, right? Some of your key people, like Mark and so on, have been with you for a long time. And like, what do you do other than just like something nice, like we have a great culture and we're very nice to each other? How are you aligning these people and making them want to work with you for these long periods of time?
Sure. Yeah. So we are. That's a great question, because and it's something that we recognized was an issue that we faced. We had a huge turnover in Propel at the early stages, and it was a real problem for us, because you take someone on, you kind of train them for a year, then they started. So they're it's a loss-making venture in year one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in year 2, you maybe start seeing some return. And then it's supposed to be year 3, year 4, year 5, the business kind of sees a real return on that individual.
But if they keep quitting in 18 months.
Exactly. Between year 1 and year 2, we were losing people.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we realized it was down to our management and, my management. And, it's that kind of, we use that traditional model really that I learned, that UK, kind of recruiter sales type management philosophy, where you manage by numbers, and, you sit people down at the end of the week and you give them a bollocking if they haven't hit their numbers. It's a bit nuts when you think about it now, but that's the way we did it. And we were doing that on a weekly basis and wondering why people were leaving, so we've completely flipped that on its head now. And while we still recognize numbers are important, and we look at the numbers every week, as a management team, we don't necessarily hit people over the head with them anymore, So,
got it.
Yeah. So we change. And the other thing as well is that, we probably recognize as a, leadership team between myself and Jamie, that management wasn't necessarily something that we were, on a day-to-day basis, our strengths, So I think that's another important aspect, is that when you're hiring key people, like Mark is a shareholder in the business now, you need to kind of fill in the gaps, in terms of, find people that fill in the gaps that you're missing. And Mark certainly did that with the people management piece, because, and I'd probably credit our retention to Mark, really, because, that's something that he's great at, in terms of, communicating with people, and, that sort of, he kind of uses a sort of servant leadership approach, where it's, not what they can do for us, but it's what we can do for them. In terms of people,
that's a nice quote. We'll tag that in the article on this video.
Well, I definitely read it.
And Barry, another big thing is like commissions, right? Most recruiters do this job because they can make great commissions if they do a good job. And so, have you hacked the commission structure in any way to make it like more aggressive, less aggressive? Like any tweak?
No, and that's something we probably haven't landed on. So come back to me on that in about a year, because that's something we're changing.
Got it.
It's kind of in flux all the time, really, at the moment. So we haven't kind of landed on that magic.
Got it.
Structure.
What is the rough structure you use today for a regular talent consultant you hire? Like, no, you don't have to give us the exact
look,
salary,
I think,
like
I think somebody, somebody should be earning 3 times
their salary.
Exactly. Not 3 times. Somebody should be earning kind of a third of what they're generating for the business.
Got it.
That's kind of where we're at the moment.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. And when you say a third, you mean their base salary plus commission? I
think their total earnings. Yeah.
Total earnings.
If they're, for the sake of ease of calculation, if somebody's generating 150,000, they should be earning 50,000.
50. Got it. Got it. Perfect. And do you have accelerators and stuff in place? Because if there's 2 people and you've given them the same resources, and one makes like 500 and one makes 100, then they've probably generated more incremental revenue with the same amount of spend for the business, in a sense.
Yeah.
But that's something that's still being optimized.
A little bit, yeah. And we've moved away from that 360 model, so we don't have we don't really have people responsible for sales.
For everything.
Really kind of, for example, in our business with Yala, Jamie generates all the sales.
Got it.
And then we have a recruitment team that are responsible for delivering on those, delivering on those requirements.
So Barry, now to follow up, right? Like, what's the hardest part about running a recruitment business? What sucks about this job?
Oh, what sucks?
Yeah. What's the bad? Like, everyone has the good stuff, right? The people and all of that. But like, what sucks about this job?
Yeah, I think it's a very tough business to scale.
Yeah,
I think it's a really hard business to scale.
Right.
For a few different reasons. It's a very fragmented industry. So you've got tons of companies, and all kind of, competing in the same market. There's very low barriers to entry. So like we mentioned earlier on, any company can pretty much, start up a recruitment company with zero capital. So yeah, probably that's the biggest challenge. That's something that we're kind of really, really wrestling with is kind of scaling the business.
But folks like Randstad have figured it out, right? Over 50 years.
They grew. I mean, they just started buying up companies, right?
Yeah. Use debt, buy companies.
Just buy companies. Yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting.
But outside scaling is more like a strategic challenge, right? What do you not like about owning a recruitment business, other than like it can't scale? Like, is there a specific type of thing you don't like doing? Like, some people hate admin work or finance work or doing sales or doing recruitment. Is there anything Barry doesn't like? There's no way you like all parts of your job, right?
Sure.
Start to finish.
Sure. I mean, I think dealing with candidates is really challenging,
Okay.
And that was always something that I, going back over the years was always hard,
Got it.
Because, it's not like you're dealing with a product, you're dealing with people, and
a human.
People can change their minds, and sometimes
it's irritating.
Yeah. You don't really have full control, so that can be that. I find that really challenging.
Got it. And if you went back and you met 20-year-old Barry, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh yeah, it's a good question. What advice? That is a good question, Sean. Sorry. In terms of maybe what things I would do,
anything you'd want to tell yourself, right? Like keep doing what you're doing, or don't do recruitment. It's hard, or anything. It doesn't have to be something super zen. It just needs to be real, right? Or ask that girl out. Anything, right? Anything that you'd want your old self to go back and like maybe smack your 20-year-old self and be like, do this or don't do this. What advice would you give yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think my advice would probably be, to start your business earlier, start your own business sooner. And that sense that and don't and sometimes this would probably be it. Genuinely thinking about it, I think you don't necessarily know when it's the right time to leave something. I think is the advice I'd give myself, because I probably stayed in my first job for too long. I probably outlived it a little bit, and that's a combination of a few different
start
things.
Earlier.
Yeah,
become an entrepreneur faster.
Don't stay too long. Yeah.
And like, now that you're in the advice mode anyway, right? Like, what advice would you give people that are looking to start recruitment businesses today?
Yeah. I'd really consider that scaling issue and understand, in your business plan, how you're going to overcome that. Also, understand how you're going to generate recurring revenue on a monthly basis
in recruitment. So Gary, to finish up, last couple questions, right? Like, one, what are the future plans for you in life? Like the next 5-10 years, are you going to keep scaling Yala and like figure out the roadblocks? Are you planning to retire anytime soon and leave it to the next generation? What's the goal?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to I would love to grow Yala, and we wanted to be kind of in the size-wise, one of the largest recruitment firms in Ireland, certainly, and we want to kind of break 50 employees. So we really want to be one of the largest firms and the leader in terms of embedded recruitment in Ireland. And we also want to scale the business internationally. So there's two kind of really exciting challenges for us as a business. Yeah.
Growing. So yeah, you're all in basically. You're in this game to scale this from 10, 15, 20 people to 200 people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And finish up, Barry. What's life like outside of work? Like, are you married? Are you single? Do you have a dog? Kids? Like,
yeah, married. 3 kids, no dog yet. Got 3 kids under 7. So
oh wow,
I don't think we don't have room for a dog just yet. But so life. I mean, for anyone with kids at this age knows pretty much revolves around them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's good. It's good.
Oh wow! So you actually started Yala around the time where you had 3 super young kids, right?
I know. Yeah. Starting a new business, having kids, and moving house. That was all kind of done in sort of 12 months. So that was it's nice.
Stressful.
I feel like things have settled down, which is a nice feeling. Yeah.
That's incredible. Thanks for doing this, Barry. We really appreciate
it. No problem, John. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheerio, Barry.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.
Chat soon. All the best.
And that's all for today's episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs. Like and follow us if you liked today's episode and want to hear more stories from the world of recruitment.